Hello and welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you're doing well and welcome to the very second Big Friendly Grub recipe video. Yes, I've managed to make it to the milestone of 2 recipe videos, so we're on a roll. And today I am going to be channeling my inner Mary Berry and showing you how to make a classic Victoria sandwich cake. Yes, you can probably see I've already done a little bit of prep work here, but don't worry, this is a super simple cake to make. One of the reasons why I'm showing you this is because it's a super simple cake. It's a good one for me to kind of get started with. If you've never baked cakes before or you've tried baking cakes before and it's not gone quite right, this is a good one to start with because the ingredients are minimal. The measurements are super easy to remember. I'll explain as I make it. You shouldn't have any problems with this one. So let's get cracking. It's an egg joke, sorry. So to make your Victoria sandwich cake, you will need 225 grams of self-raising flour, 225 grams of butter at room temperature. You can tell this is room temperature because I can stick my finger in it, which is quite disgusting. You're going to want to put your butter out probably for a good few hours before using it so it gets to room temperature. If you forget or if you don't have the time, you can do it in the microwave, but you have to be ever so careful. You need to try and do it in probably about 10-second bursts, and if it starts to melt too much, then it's not going to be any good to you. It needs to be room temperature. It needs to be soft, but not too soft. So probably about that, I would say. See, I've stuck my finger in it. You can still see the hole. It's not melting in on itself. That's probably the most disgusting part of our video out of the way. I'm sorry about that. Then you'll also need 225 grams of caster sugar. I've gone for golden caster sugar here, just because I think it gives it a little bit of a nice flavour, a little bit of a nicer colour, but really that's purely aesthetic. If you've got normal caster sugar, then that's absolutely fine. Just don't use granulated sugar. That's what goes in your coffee. Don't use that. It's too coarse. You won't get a good texture on your cake if you use granulated sugar. Caster sugar. And notice I didn't say that's the sugar that goes in your tea. Sugar should not go in tea. Sorry, if you put sugar in your tea, you're just wrong. So you can see from the dry ingredients there why this is such a simple recipe, because they're all 225 grams. That's what you need to remember with those. The wet ingredients, a little bit different, but there's not too many more of those, so I'll show you those now. Oh, sorry, one more technically dry ingredient is you also need some baking powder. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of this stuff. Don't add in 225 grams of this stuff because I dread to think what will happen. Just 2 teaspoons of that. A teaspoon is one of these. You can pick up these plastic spoons from pretty much anywhere that sells baking equipment, or online on Amazon. You can get these along and it will give you a nice set of them. Worst comes to worst, you can use a normal teaspoon that you usually use to stir your tea. That will work fine as well, but I prefer to use these, a little bit more accurate because you can level it off better. We're also going to need 4 eggs, don't drop them, and you're also going to need a teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is my own homemade one. I know, it seems a bit pretentious. It's even in a Kilner bottle, but it really is super simple to make. I can explain that another day, but if all you've got is the stuff that you can buy in the shops, absolutely fine. Just make sure it's vanilla extract, not vanilla essence. That's something that's not as good. Don't use that. Use vanilla extract. You'll also need a couple of tablespoons of milk, and then for your filling, double cream and some good quality strawberry jam. In this case, strawberry conserved from Bon Maman. To be honest, I'm not sure what the difference between jam and conserve is, but let's not worry about this. This will work as well. You'll also need some icing sugar. Not masses, probably about 50 grams. I like to mix that in with the cream, just because it gives a little extra sweetness. You don't have to. If you prefer it to be just like the normal cream, fine. But you also want a bit for dusting later. And that's it. So me and my soggy bottom are now going to show you how to make this. Let's get started. You might be noticing that my glasses are changing colour. I'm not being pretentious and wearing sunglasses indoors, I'm not. These are the kinds of glasses that change when they're in UV light. Because I'm standing in front of my window, the sun's coming in and they're changing the colour of my glasses. I'm sorry, it's just how these work. I don't have any other pairs at the moment, so I need to get another pair of glasses. Just wanted to clear that up, just in case you were thinking, what the hell's this guy's problem? I have many problems, that's not one of them. So the first things we're going to want to mix are our butter and our sugar. So first things first, drop in your butter. You can cut it up first if you like, if that will help. Personally, I'm just going to plop it all in one go. There we go. And I'm going to do this all by hand because Again, I want to show you that even if you don't have super fancy equipment like my stand mixer over there, this can still be done even without that. It's going to be super simple. A little bit more elbow grease, but that's okay. If you've got the fancy equipment, if you've got like a hand mixer or something like that, you can use that too. But I'm showing you the longer way because that's like how we used to do it. That's how they used to do it. That's how they used to do it back in the day. So I'm just going to squish this up a little bit just to get it started. Get your hands in there. Don't be afraid to get your hands in there. Baking's a bit messy. There's nothing wrong with that. My hands are clean, so don't you worry about that none. So you can see that's just helped soften it up a bit more. And I need to go wash this hand. Next, you're going to want to sift in your caster sugar into the butter. You can see it's got a few lumps in it, so that's why I am sifting it. A Victoria sponge is a nice light airy cake, so you don't really want any lumps or anything in it like that, so that's why we're sifting. Another one of the things I like about golden caster sugar is the smell of it. It smells like golden syrup. That's one of the reasons why I love using it. It gives it that extra sweetness. When you get to the last few bits of the sugar that don't really want to go through, just get yourself another spoon and just push it through, force it through, don't be gentle with it, get all those bits through, show them who's boss. There we go, that's pretty much it. There's a few strays there, but they're probably larger chunks that, to be honest, you're not going to really want them in there anyway, so don't worry about that too much. Now we've got that in the bowl, you're going to have to beat together the butter and the sugar. You're going to want to make it really nice and creamy. It will become lighter in colour, probably lighter in texture as well. Become nice and light and fluffy. Because I'm doing this by hand, it's going to need a bit of elbow grease. So I'm going to do that now while we cut to a musical interlude or something like that. You're going to want to see to start with, I'm just kind of mashing it all together. But as it softens up with the sugar, you're going to be able to really kind of start mixing it all together a lot better. See, that's starting to come together, starting to get a bit lighter, starting to get a bit softer, smoother and creamier. So I will carry on and we'll come back in a second, more than a second. So you can see now that this is a lot creamier, fluffier, a lot smoother. So that's probably about where you want it. That would have been much easier with like a hand whisk or in the stand mixer over there. But again, I wanted to show you that it's all doable by hand. And seriously, you won't make as much of a meal of that as I did. I was just doing it for dramatic effect, honest. So what we're going to do now is we're going to want to put our eggs in one at a time. Be careful not to get any shell in. So first egg, no shell, excellent, excellent. Second egg, again, no shell. You're best off cracking these on a flat surface rather than a surface with an edge because you're more likely to get the shell in them that way. Don't ask me why, it's just how it works. It's how it's always worked for me. So that's our eggs cracked in. You can, and you probably should do those one at a time and then mix them in. But because I'm a rebel and because I made a slight mistake, I put them all in at once. But that's okay. We'll make this work because what I like to do when I crack my eggs in, I like to put in a spoonful of flour for each egg. So I'm going to do that now. Like I said, ideally you should do it one egg, mix it, one egg, mix it, one egg, mix it, one egg, mix it. Less of a chance of it curdling. But don't worry, I've got 4 eggs in there. I've put 4 spoonfuls of flour into this to help stop the eggs from curdling. Now we mix it all in. Fits on the back of your spoon, get it off with the other spoon. Actually going to put a little bit more flour in. It's a little grainier than I had hoped, but that's probably because I put all the eggs in one go. But don't worry, this is a fairly flexible recipe. It will still work. You'll see, don't worry. Might be convincing myself more of that. So next I'm going to be sifting in the rest of the flour. Remember I said it's quite a light cake, so you want to sift everything. Sometimes I'm not too fussy about the sifting, but I want to show you guys how to do it properly. So I'm going to sift. Nice and quick. Bit of a flour storm there, but let's wait for that to clear. Now you're going to want to fold the flour into the butter and the sugar and the eggs. This is so you get plenty of air in it. You don't knock all of the air that you kind of put in previously, and this is what will help you get a nice light fluffy cake. So to fold, you just kind of go up, over and under, up, over and under, and keep doing that. Up, over and under. Keep doing that as you mix everything in. Keep doing this until all the flour is combined. Get all your flour around the edges. Up, over and fold. Keep folding. Keep on folding. You can see that's becoming smoother. So that's pretty much there. So you kind of want it to be the consistency where it kind of drops off the spatula or your spoon, depending on what you're using. And you can see it's kind of sticking there right now. It's slowly going, but you want it to drop off a little bit quicker than that. This is where your milk comes in. See, it's dropped off, but we want it to be a little bit more fluid than that. Not too fluid, but a bit more. You're going to add in 2 tablespoons of milk now. So 1. I'm going to do 1 first, actually, see how it is, and then do the second one if needed. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for the second one as well. 2. Fold that in. That's looking more like it. I'm going to get everything from around the edges. See, that's coming off much easier now. I almost forgot the baking powder. Guys, you should have told me. So ideally, this should have gone in when the flour goes in, because then you can sieve it through with the flour. But don't worry, we've remembered. The order doesn't matter that much. We're going to mix it in, distribute it evenly using the same folding technique. So you're going to be able to see that this can be done in a different order. Ideally, would have gone in with the flour. Again, not the end of the world if it doesn't. So, going to push it in, making sure to press out any lumps, because that's what we would have done if we just sieved it. 2nd teaspoon in. To be honest, it probably wouldn't have been the end of the world if we hadn't. This is self-raising flour, but we want a nice light sponge. This is why the baking powder is also going in. And then fold this through, make sure it's fully distributed. No one wants a lump of baking powder in their cake. It doesn't taste nice. That's that averted. So you can see, even though I didn't put the eggs in one at a time and I didn't put the baking powder in when the flour should have, it's still lovely, nice, smooth batter. Last but no means least, we want our vanilla extract. We don't need much of this, it's potent stuff. Simply just 1 teaspoon of this will be enough. Then again, just fold that in with the rest of it, and there we go. So that is now ready for us to put into our cake tin. So I will now show you that step. Okay, I've shown you how to do the cake batter and also demonstrated why I'm not a professional baker. Now I'm going to show you just how we put these into the tins. Sounds pretty simple, and it is, but there's just a couple of things you should know before we go ahead and do that. So you're going to need 2 8-inch cake tins, preferably loose bottom cake tins. These are spring formed. This is where we can just pull the clip and the loose bottom will come out. So much easier to get your cakes out than the ones that don't have the loose bottoms. So many bottoms in this video. Soggy bottoms, loose bottoms, bottom of the barrel. You're also going to need some baking parchment to line the bottom of the cake tin. I like to be safe, not sorry. Make sure you use some of this. No one wants your cake tin getting stuck to the bottom. More bottoms. And we're just going to grease our tins with, I'm going to use some of this spray oil. It's buttery spray oil. If you don't have this, you can use some of the leftover butter from before. Just grease the inside of your tins with that. So I will show you how to do that now. So now we're going to need to grease and line our cake tins. So first things first, get your baking paper. Look right here. Pop it underneath your tin. Grab a pen or grab a pencil, then just draw a line around the edge of your tin so you know how big it is. It doesn't have to be super clear, just enough so that you can see. So it's not super clear, but you can see it's just right around here. Get a pair of scissors and cut it out. Voila. See, that fits in there nicely. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for the other one. That's my 2 pieces of baking parchment cut out now. So now we're just going to need to grease and put these in there. Some good squirts of this. Make sure you get around the sides as well. Grab some kitchen towel and just grease your tin really well. And just pop that in there. So that's one done. Let's do the other one. There we go, really nicely lined. So this is now ready for us to put our batter into. Now if you want to be really accurate with this, you can weigh it out, but I'm going to try and do it by eye because it usually works. Even if one's a little bit bigger than the other, doesn't matter too much. I'm actually going to do a bit at a time. Make sure you get all your stuff from around the edges. And make sure you even get the stuff off the spatula by using a little spatula or a little spoon or whatever you've got. Then you're just going to want to smooth it out. So you don't have to worry about it being too smooth on top, but do just try and make sure you've got roughly like an even amount spread across the top so you get a nice even bake. So there we go, that's our batter in the cake tins. These are now ready to go into the oven. So I've got my oven preheated to 160 degrees, that's on a fan assisted oven. If you don't have a fan assisted oven, you want it on about 180 degrees C's, that's kind of like the average for your cake. That's going to be roughly around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, about gas mark 3. Again, I'll have all of the measurements, temperatures, etc. in the recipe on the website. I'm just going to actually lower this shelf down a little bit. I've lowered that shelf down because it was up a bit too high, and you want them on the higher shelf, not the lower shelf. It will take a bit longer to cook otherwise. I know my oven really needs a clean, I'm sorry. And try and get these onto the same shelf, try not to burn yourself. And we're going to bake those for about 20 minutes. So we'll come back then. Right, so our cakes are out of the oven, and to be honest, these probably had a little bit longer than 20 minutes. They probably had more around 25 to 30 minutes because I put them on both on the same shelf. They were taking a little bit longer to cook. So this one at the back of the oven actually cooked in less time than this one. So you just kind of need to keep an eye on them really. But they both look very nice. They both risen. They both look nice and golden. But just to make sure they are cooked, what we need to do is, this is my poking skewer. It's just a damaged bent skewer that I used for poking cakes. So what you do is you just pop this into the middle of your cake, and if it comes out clean, which it has, and the same on this one as well, you can see all clean. So if that comes out clean, that means your cakes are cooked. So I'm just going to leave these about 5-10 minutes to cool in the tins a bit, just so to make them a little bit easier to handle, and then we'll take them out and leave them to cool completely. So it's been about 5-10 minutes now, so I'm going to quickly take these out of the tins. So it's been about 5-10 minutes. The tins have cooled. They're still warm, but they're cool enough for me to touch now without horribly burning myself. So I'm just going to unclip these. See, that gets them away from the tin nicely, and then I'm just going to very carefully turn this over, and you see where we've used the greaseproof paper, it's allowed the tin to come away nicely. This is probably going to be my bottom one, so I'm going to put that down that way up, and the next one, this one's probably going to be my top one, so I'm going to take away the greaseproof paper first, and I'm going to very carefully turn it over and pop it down that way so it can cool that way up. The greaseproof paper from this one, whoop, try not to tear it. It doesn't matter if you tear it, but I prefer to try and get it off in one piece. So I'm going to now leave these to cool completely. If you don't leave these to cool completely, when you come to put your cream on it later and they're still warm, your cream will melt all over the place and you'll have wasted your time. You'll have two nice tasting cakes that are then drenched in melted cream. So yeah, let's leave these to cool completely and come back later and then we can do our filling. It's been probably about 45 minutes and the cakes are now nice and cool. They're cool to the touch. So we can now do our filling without any danger of the cakes melting our cream, melting our jam. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me move the cakes out of the way. So I've got my bowl, I've got my double cream. I've got 300 mils of double cream here. I'm going to use all of my cream because I'd rather use too much cream than not enough cream. And then we can see how much we need at the end. If I've got some left over, no matter. Give it a quick shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your double cream. I'm going to pour that in. So at the moment our double cream is actually going to be obviously no good to put into our cake because it's entirely too liquid. So what we're going to need to do is to get it to stiffen up. The way we're going to do that is, to quote Devo, is whip it.
Gonna whip it into shape, shape it up, get it straight, go forward, move ahead, try to detect it, to whip it good.
Sorry, if you have no idea what that was all about, after this video go on YouTube, Devo, whip it, and then I'm not sure it'll make things any clearer, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So because I'm a sucker for punishment and I said I'd do this all by hand, I've got my whisk, I've got my double cream, and I'm going to be whipping this up as best as I can using lots and lots of elbow grease. It will honestly be a hell of a lot quicker if you use one of those hand mixers or a stand mixer like what I've got, but I said I'd do this by hand, so let's go ahead and do this. Cue the motivational music. As you can see, it's getting there. In fact, this is probably not too far off. A little bit more. Once it actually starts to come into shape, it doesn't take too much and you can end up over whipping it, which you don't want to do. And to be honest, that's probably it. That's probably good. And to be honest, that didn't take too long, only a few minutes really. So there we go, our cream is pretty much ready. It's staying on the spatula. Gravity is being defied. See, defying gravity is not really falling off the spatula unless I do that. So yeah, that's pretty much there. So what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of icing sugar to it to sweeten it up. So I've just popped my scales under there and I'm going to weigh it out about 50 grams of icing sugar. So I'm going to sift it. Don't worry, I won't sing a song called Sift It. I don't think there's one. You really need to sift your icing sugar because it is quite lumpy and it goes everywhere, so we're probably going to get a bit of a cloud storm here. I don't want too much of it. I'm probably only going to add about 50 grams or so. There you go, 52 grams. But you can add more or less to your taste. You don't have to add it at all, or you can add more if you want it sweeter. This is just going to be enough just to sweeten it a little bit. And I'm going to fold this in. I'm going to gently fold this in to my double cream, and that looks good. That looks good to me. So what we're going to do now is just do the filling of our cake. This is never really my forte. Presentation is not my best usually, but let's give it a go. So what I've got here is a rotating cake stand. You don't have to have one, it just usually helps you if you're decorating your cake because it allows you to move your cake around without having to shift the board or anything like that, or plate or whatever you've got it on. So I'm going to pop mine onto one of these cake boards. Always go for a cake board that is actually bigger than your cake. So I think this is about a 10-inch cake board, so it's a good couple of inches bigger in diameter than our cake. So there we go. Then first I'm going to do our jam. So I'm going to just pop that into the middle and spread it out with the back of a spoon. This probably won't be enough, but you can add more. And you want to spread it out to not quite all the way to the edge, because when you pop your top on, it will come squeezing out the sides. Won't look great. Won't matter, still tastes good. I'm going to try and make this look as good as I possibly can for you guys. Okay. That's our jam on. That looks fairly even. It's not quite right up to the edge. In places it is. I'm just going to move it back. Just realised that I didn't have my mic on for that last section, so if it sounds a bit quiet, I'm sorry. It's just because I forgot to turn on the external mic rather than the internal mic. So if it sounds quiet and echoey, really sorry about that. And yeah, I do film on my phone rather than an actual camera. It's because I can't afford a proper camera at the moment. But there's nothing wrong with filming on a camera phone. It works, it looks fine. It just makes it a bit more difficult to set up the shot. But we'll see where things go. For now, this works fine when I remember to turn on this mic. So now we're going to do our cream and remembering to turn our mic on. So I'm just going to dot this over the top. That looks like a good amount. I'm going to just very, very, very gently smooth this out. Again, we want it to go almost to the edge, not quite all the way to the edge. Just smooth it out, no need to rush. It's quite therapeutic. It's looking like quite a good amount. You want to keep it a fairly even amount. You don't want to have too much one or the other. Not too much jam, not too much cream. You want quite a nice even balance of both. Some people, including Mary Berry, I think, usually just do it with jam. For me, yeah, it's just a jam sandwich. It's not really my thing. But you can just do it with jam if you don't want the cream. If you've got a problem with dairy, then you can substitute out the butter for a non-dairy substitute and you don't have to have the cream. It's entirely up to you. This is just a base. A recipe is a suggestion, as my mum would always tell me. So just a bit more to around the edge. Bring it up about even with the jam. I think that'll do, you know. That might crack it. I'm now going to very, very carefully pop our lid on. There we go. Look at that. Next is just pop some icing sugar on it. And that's pretty much it. So a quick change of camera angle, and we're just going to add some icing sugar onto the top of this. We don't need loads. Gently, gently, gently do some icing sugar over the top, just evenly. You don't need masses. Icing sugar will go everywhere, I'm afraid. It just adds a nice touch. You could use caster sugar as well, or none at all if you're trying to keep it lower in sugar. I mean, it's a Victoria sponge, so it seems kind of futile to me. Do whatever you like. This is your cake. I'm just giving you a rough guideline of how to do this. So I think that's pretty much good. There we go. Look at that. So there we go, guys. A classic Victoria sandwich cake with lovely cream, nice sharp jam, and two nice light sponges. It's really not that much trouble at all. You know, I did that all by hand. Didn't use a machine or anything like that, and it was still fairly simple. If you're looking to get started with cakes, I can recommend no cake higher than this one, and everyone kind of loves the Victoria sponge as well. It's a classic for a reason. So I'm actually going to take this one to work tomorrow, so I'm going to get it popped in the fridge. You can keep it for a day or two, but I would highly recommend keeping it in the fridge because of the cream, because one, it's cream, it'll start going off, and two, if it's warm, it's going to melt. So keep these in the fridge and enjoy. There we go, guys. That is Big Friendly Grub recipe video number 2 out of the way. That is double my personal best of 1. It was good fun. I enjoyed doing it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you feel motivated to try and give it a go yourself. I don't want to use the word inspired because I don't feel like I'm here to inspire. I'm here to motivate. I'm here to try and get people to try and give it a go themselves. It's really not that hard. It's good fun. It's a great way to spend an afternoon. It's a great way to treat your friends. It's a great way to treat your family. So give it a go, honestly. It's really good fun. And that Victoria sponge is a great place to really get started with baking cakes. It's not too many ingredients, it's not too complicated. And as I've said before, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye. We've got Thirsty Creamer, our resident Victoria sandwich expert at Rocket Mill. Hello.